You know what I wish they would teach you in life growing up? I wish they would teach you a lot of things. I think so many key things that I really would have liked to know growing up and being an adult, things that I discovered. I would have liked to know that. I would have liked a pre-warning, pre-warning from maybe my parents. They could have given me a better heads up. My schooling, like the education system. Um, yeah, just the government giving a bit more insight into real adulthood for the young ones out there. Let me delve into this. Before I do though, I want to share with you guys a horror story that I had from Bangkok. I was recently there for a week. And so I was working and then just like traveling around and exploring and going out to the malls. I was generally based around like the Sukhumvit area. Anyway, so one night Alex had like something else to tend to, so he couldn't have dinner with me. So I was like, cool, this is my night. I'm gonna like do my own thing. So I planned to like go shopping and then eventually go to like dinner and then have a facial at like 9 p.m. So I set out on the day like at lunchtime and I went to go eat like Burmese food, which I love. So I used to live in Myanmar and I haven't been back to Myanmar in a really long time, slash eaten Burmese food in a really long time. So like there's a lot of Myanmar people that live in Thailand. So I was like, you know what? My perfect opportunity to go out there and eat some Burmese food. So I went to a place kind of nearby to the hotel and I got like nanjito and lepeto. It was super tasty, but I was very full because I kind of was too excited and I just finished like both plates of food. It was quite a lot. So I just like wasn't feeling that hungry. Plus for the rest of the like trip before that meal, I'd been eating like a lot, like just crab fried rice, like everything, just going a bit ham. And you're at the point where your body is just like no longer hungry. Like you don't feel that feeling of hunger. I don't know that. Like that's no longer a familiar feeling. That is how I felt. So I decided to just like walk around. So I went shopping and I was like desperate to buy clothes in Bangkok. You know, when you're like, I'm here, I'm present, my wallet is open, take my money, give me something to buy. But I feel like every time I'm in that mood and I go and shop, I never find anything. Anyway, so I didn't find anything for the whole week that I was in Bangkok. I came back empty handed. I came back with like 7 kilogram case as it was. I flew Air Asia and didn't even have to try and like move stuff around to take less stuff. Anyway, so I head off on me shopping trip, and then I was like, it kind of got to like around 6 p.m. and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna time this perfectly. I'm gonna eat like something in the mall. But everything that I was looking at, I just like couldn't really find anything that was enticing me. I was like, too heavy. Wasn't feeling like Thai food at that point. Wasn't feeling like Asian food, Western food. So I decided to just eat an acai bowl, being the basic bish that I am. So I was like, yeah, I just want something refreshing and light. I'll just get an acai bowl. So I went to this place in Central World and I sat down and was just ordered my acai bowl. So before I delve further into the story, I think that we're all quite aware that there's like a trend and a certain like societal norm slash culture with Thailand and Bangkok more so, I guess all of Thailand, like the hotspots for tourists, where men will go to Thailand to have some fun, right? And like pick up local ladies, um, or whatever, vice versa. And there's a definitely a demographic of older men who like to pry on younger Thai ladies or local ladies or just younger people generally in Thailand to try and I don't know, have like a sugar baby. And that's just like a general trend, right? So when I was in the mall earlier in Central World, I was just like walking into a store and I saw this like older white man. And when I say like old guys, I'm not being like offensive on saying like 40. I mean at least like at least 60. Like not that 60 is at all, but like 60 and above for sure. Okay, so I'm just gonna say he's an older white man. Anyway, so then he was talking to this Thai lady who was a local. She was just kind of dressed nicely in the mall, and Central World's like a nice mall. Anyway, and then he was like, when I walked past, I kind of like eavesdropped, and he was like, "Oh, I love your dress. You just look so stunning." Anyway, so I go and I was like, "Oh, like I think he's making a move." So I went into the store, browsed, came back out, and they were still talking. And this had been like, I want to say 7 minutes. So then they had kind of like walked further up, and then he was like saying to her like, "Oh, I don't know, like, do you know where this store is?" And she was explaining to him, and then he was like, "Well, I just thought maybe that you could show me." And was like obviously asking for her to like accompany him and spend some time with her. But I was like, oh, that's just so uncomfortable. Like, I'm just gonna leave this situation because that's just cringe, and I just think it's gross. Anyway, so then we fast forward an hour. Neya is out here eating her acai bowl, being peaceful, just trying to have a night to herself. Oh, and also, sorry, before I get into that, earlier in this day, I was at Siam Square and I was just walking, and I think I've told you guys in this my effects of men on my daily life podcast. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. But in that other podcast, I was talking about how like men walk up close to you, which no one invites you to do that, and like will say things. Anyway, so I was just walking, honestly, like not even trying to look cute. So like I don't like feel anything was warranted. Anyway, I just personally don't feel like I looked cute. Not that that really changes anything. But I was just like walking through the mall, and I could see like was actively trying to not make eye contact with people because I have like a bad habit of like looking people in the eyes because I'm like, ooh, look human. So I was just like looking ahead, walking, and then I could see my peripheral vision this man approaching, and he like walked really close to me, and he was like, "Wow." I was like, "Cool, thanks." And then he just continued walking, and then like looked back at me, and I was just like, just like hurried, scurried off. Anyway, that made me feel kind of uncomfortable because I felt like Bangkok was really exacerbating this male behavior, and in a way, like I felt like in a fishbowl where like all these men were just like staring at you, and I felt like they really, you could just feel them like objectifying you, and like I don't know, it was just too much. I felt a bit overwhelmed. Anyway, so then go back to the story. So then I'm eating my sahi bowl, and then this man approaches me, and I'm just like sitting there by myself. I was like, oh god damn it, please no. So I was already feeling kind of hostile towards men generally because of the earlier incident. And so he approaches me and he's like, he's an older white man, definitely, definitely 67, like mid 60s or older, right? Like, no, thank you. My, anyway, my parents are like that age. Anyway, so that what was that to me? And he's like, is that nice? And I was like, yeah, I like it. I like briefly looked at him and I was like, yeah, I like it. And I was just like kind of showing that I wasn't really interested in the conversation. And he was like, oh, like, what is it? And I was like, it's just like a smoothie kind of thing. Just, yeah, I just found it refreshing. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, and then he walked away, came back, and then he was like, are you Thai? And I was like, he's like, you're very tall for a Thai lady. And I was like, no, I'm not Thai. He's like, oh, where are you from? And I was like, Australia. And he's like, oh, we're in Australia. And I was like, yeah, like Melbourne. And he's like, okay. He's like, oh, I'm from Sydney. And then he actually said we are from Sydney. So I thought the we was insinuating like maybe he was like there with his wife. That's a very big jump, like assumption to make. But anyway, I made that assumption. And this, for a moment, I was like, oh, he's here with his wife. Maybe he's just genuinely being nice. So now I was like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, it's quite cool here right now. And he was like, yeah, it's like start talking about the weather, whatever. And then I was like, cool. Like kind of just like, ended the conversation. And then he was like walked away, came back again and was like, sorry, are you married? Sorry to be so forward, but you're the most beautiful girl I've seen in Thailand. And I was like, my soul was just shriveling up inside. I felt so ick. Like the ick level was about 120%. No, it was just like infinite. It was just wasn't into it. Anyway, then he was like, and I was like, yeah, I'm married. And then he was like, oh, I should have known. He's like, sorry. He's just like, you're just so beautiful. And then mumbled some other stuff. And then I was like, okay. And then he just like, and I literally just sat there. There was an awkward silence for at least 5 seconds. And I was like, I'm not going to say anything because I don't really want to talk to you anymore. And I want you to just go away. And then he walked off. But it just made me feel really uncomfortable because I felt like I was saying about this fishbowl effect. Any situation or like position that I was in Thailand, I feel like men were just like staring just because I purely because I'm like a female and like staring or you, and then just makes me feel like, oh, what sort of invasive thoughts are they having about you? Anyway, I just felt very uncomfortable. And after that, I was because I was also by myself. I didn't feel comfortable either. And then I was like, oh, should I go to this facial at 9 p.m. because like then I have to walk there. I was gonna walk there and back like a 10-minute walk each way. And I was feeling like very unsafe when I texted my sister and she was like, you should just go to the facial, like, or like text me like your movements. And then I kind of was like, I went home and then I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go to the facial. Like, I'm not going to let these silly men stop me from doing what I want and making me feel uncomfortable. So, anyway, I went to my facial and I felt very accomplished and stuck it to the man, literally. But anyway, gross. If you were out there doing that, stop it. No one likes it. Well, at least I don't like it. Leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Thank you. I won't speak on behalf of others. Thank you. Okay. So back to our topic of the day after that tangent, but I had to just share that story. So, things that I wish that I knew. Okay, here they are. Taxes. What you get taxed on, how to do your taxes, tax rates, like where do you submit your tax application? At what point are you supposed to know like to apply for tax? When are you eligible? So many questions around tax. Tax is the thing that they just no one informs you of. It's unless your parent is an accountant, which I have one, it's still not very helpful because they end up doing a lot of taxes for you and then you just sign the document, which is also really nice. But I'm just saying, taxes, there's just so little information there in high school that that is not okay. And in university, can you please in our curriculum include some sort of like tax education in all curriculums? Shout out for me to Australian government, Victorian state government, like do something about it. Okay, next thing. Signing up. Okay, so this is like very much so for when you're adulting and you either get a new home, you rent a home, you move overseas and you rent a home, but like signing up for electricity, housing, power, and water. Okay, fundamentals like stamp duty, agents fees. This is stuff that you just do not get clued in on. And you have to either realize very sadly on your own when you don't have any power or you don't have like water or you don't know where your bills are being sent. And you have to start managing all this yourself. It is a very steep incline into adulthood when you move home. Especially when you have to pay like an agent's deposit fee plus rental plus stamp duty all in like 1 month and you're like bleeding of money. But people really don't like no one teaches you this stuff. It's just stuff that you like learn as you go. So I think like it's definitely a space where you can make it set up to be very vulnerable because you don't know actually like, you know, what you should be paying for and what you shouldn't be paying for and when you're going to get screwed over. So I do think that you should probably YouTube and Google that and kind of get advice on what the best practice is. Um, Something that I think is super important coming off that is also just like managing your finances. So here's a little story time. I used to work as a debt collector, and I used to work as a debt collector at one of the major banks in Australia. We would like to call it, what do they call it? Collections. Collections. So essentially, you're a debt collector. But it was an amazing university job. I loved it because you got paid super well. You were on a casual employment. You could like dictate your hours pretty well. People were super nice. I mean, not the customers, but like in the organization. And it was just like a very good place to work during university. A lot of flexibility. But this job, I think, was so good for me because I gained a lot of financial literacy in this um, job because of I observing other people in not great situations. So you would do like outbound and inbound calls. I would do like a lot of inbound calls. And so you were having to essentially like people would call in and help organize like payment arrangements for them to pay things back. But it was really interesting learning and hearing like all the stories and the situations that people got into that put them in a not great financial situation. And it really taught me to realize that it's so easy to be like not financially secure. It's very quick for that to happen. You might think like, oh, cool, I've got a salary, I'm earning money, I'm like spending it. Maybe you're not saving that much, or even if you are saving a lot, and then some random accident happens, like a health condition, and then boom, you've got to pay for that, like a month of hospital cover or like peculiar surgeries. It was always such really like um, sudden incidents that I think really put people in a bad position. Um, and there would people with like, huge home loans. They could afford like a 1 point something million-dollar home, but then now they're divorced and there's like all these issues with um I guess there's a lot of grievances between the parties and like getting to sign papers. So there's just like so much education that I got from that around protecting like the best way to enter into purchasing something, the best way to manage your finances, the best way to pay off things, because it's a very slippery slope financially. I think like once you get into a bad habit or you make one error or something bad happens, it's very hard to come back from it. I think also growing up in my household, for some reason, my mom like definitely made it seem like as if having a credit card was like a really scary thing. And I think it was kind of valid that she did that because it made, when I was 18, I think when I was working, they offered me, well, maybe 19 or 20, but they offered me like a $6,000 credit card based on my income. And I was like, like I could so easily just like go into arrears in this and just like fall into debt because they were definitely lending me more money than I really realistically could like sustain. So I think it was warranted that my mom was trying to make me feel fearful of credit cards, and she was always like just debit card and cash. But mind you, she's also that Asian mom that's like really good at, oh look, there's a deal, you can get this many points if you set up this credit card, and just like jumps to different banks. So um I think it's just like that job was so insightful for me and taught me so much for my future, and just being like, I think it's just the reality of life financially if you're not being smart about your money. So I would highly recommend, if you are like younger, even now, like if you feel like you don't have great financial literacy, maybe go and like, I don't know, find a job in that area, or just learn more about that field and work in a situation where you're dealing with people every day and like their financial situations, because you learn so much and you, in a very short amount of time, very valuable. Coming off that, I think the fourth thing that would be really nice is for schools to really run like actual, realistic, practical courses on investing, like baseline investing, to encourage people to start investing from the age of like 18. I think personally, this is an area that I'm lacking. Like I feel like I didn't have a super good idea or confidence. I think it's around confidence as well. Like knowledge and confidence are like two things, right? Around, how to invest my money, what to invest it in, um, being able to understand the markets and different areas of opportunity to be able to be more like to grow my money. I think being able to do that from a young age really goes a long way. But not having the knowledge and the resources when you're younger and not being spoken to about it is a really like a first step that you can fall behind on if you don't have access to it. So I think there's now like quite a lot of resources in terms of investing, especially with YouTube and like blogs and articles, courses that you can take on to really learn more about investing. But I do think that is something, once again, Australian government, Victorian government, make that a subject at school, or make it like a mandatory thing that people have to learn in year 10 as an elective or something. Like not as an elective, but as a compulsory elective. Anyway, I think that's really, really vital. Another thing, I would say there's like, okay, this moves into you thriving generally in life. This is not financial. Um, I would say communication. I don't think that when you grow up, enough emphasis is really placed on pushing you to be a better communicator and really emphasizing the importance of it. I think it's amazing if you're in high school and suddenly you have a passion or a natural intuition towards like debating, right? Or public speaking and anything to do with public speaking generally. Amazing. Like, or like you're just naturally gifted with English or have a natural inclination towards it. Amazing. So happy for you. But for people who don't and struggle through that, like not having the outlets or support or fundamentals to communicate is really crippling to your adult life. And I think especially your career. I genuinely think that like being smart and a super high achieving, high functioning intellectual is useless unless you can communicate. I know so many people who are really smart, but when you put them in a work setting, they just like buckle because they cannot communicate. They cannot like effectively work with other people and understand how to communicate their feelings, their thoughts, and listen to other people effectively. And I think this is like so invaluable because if you can't be a good communicator, I I just don't understand how you would collaborate with other people or even like lead a team. But you know what's amazing? So many people in the working like professional industries really suck at communication. And that's what leads to very like toxic workplaces, um, poor delivery of work, I don't know, toxic companies, people who like doing dodgy ass things. It's all just like a lot around communication. Um, so I think a way to navigate that if you are younger or you're raising kids is to get your kids to start working at a really young age, and put them in environments that, you know, different to what their normal daily life is. Go and work at it. For me, I went and worked at an ice cream store, a shoe store, a debt collecting. What else did I do? Oh, a juice store. You know, all these different environments where you had to just learn to work with other people from a lot of different backgrounds, and it really just grows you as a person. It gives you lessons in empathy, compassion, listening, communication. So vital. Um, so yeah, I think communication is a huge one. I once again think that they should make like debating or public speaking or just yeah, maybe just public speaking a fundamental course needed to be done between the ages of I went from year 9 to year 10, you know, like so valuable. Second to that, I think this is like less something you can learn at school. Well, you could learn it at school in some shape or form, but I think this is more just from like life experiences. But street smarts is super important. I think once again, being book smart is 1/3 of it. I think I just think like it's so much more valuable to be street smart, to be able to communicate, be like perceptive of the environment around you, like self aware, observant. It helps you so much to just survive. I think it gives you that ability, like the basic survival instincts that you need. You know what I mean? Like everybody knows how to survive, instinctively without even realizing it. But like are enough people put into situations where they actually have to do that? Probably not. So I think this is something you really grow with, like through travel and experiences through travel. I think the more you travel, the more you can grow your street smarts. But I also think just once again, like my other point, the more different situations you are put in outside of your comfort zone, the quicker you will learn all these skills that help you be like a street smart person. One area, one area of street smarts, which also I think falls into like just your whole general life, like career as well, is negotiation. I am a terrible negotiator. Well, I wouldn't say terrible. I think I would say I negotiate in my own way, but I think I get too emotional about negotiation, and so I always end up feeling like, oh, like I feel bad. I don't want to push a person, but yeah, I'm just like really not good at negotiation. Alex, on the other hand, amazing at negotiation. I think he's very like calm and collected, but that's just him generally as a person. But me, no. Like one time we were traveling in Bagan in Myanmar and we were negotiating a tuk-tuk price. And Alex, this was the moment Alex was like to me, you are just so bad at negotiating. So we went to this tuk tuk and we wanted to get back to the airport because it was like we couldn't find any other transport back. And I think um we asked the driver and he said a price like 10,000 chat or something like that. And then I was like, and I think I just said, um, oh no, they asked us to say a price first. And so I was like, 15,000 chat. And then Alex was like, what? Because it was like well above what we would ever pay. And he's like, why would you start with such a high number? And then the guy was like, 10,000 chat. And then I was like, okay, 13,000 chat. And I think I said something like ridiculous. And Alex was like, oh my God, you are so bad at negotiating. Like next time when we negotiate, just be quiet. But yeah, anyway, I need to work on that because that is definitely not a strong skill set of mine. Um, the last two things that I think comes back to like life admin stuff, but finding a dentist and doctor abroad, this is stuff that you don't think about because when you're raised generally, not for everybody, for me anyway, when I was being raised, I had like a family dentist and a doctor. So for me, I'm like, they know me. I don't need to see anybody else. Like, why would I want to see anyone else? But then when I started to move overseas and things like that, I was like, oh my God, I have to like go and find my own doctor and dentist. How do I veto that it's safe? My mum didn't approve them. Or in Australia we do like bulk billing. I'm like, where can I get like a good price? And I think just in my mindset, like dentists and doctors can cost so much money. So it was something I fretted about a lot. But I think um I was talking to a colleague the other day about this, and we are like, can't like our families just always be doing our doctor and dentist appointments for me? Like my mum should still be booking my dentist and just tell me the date and I'll rock up. It's just that life admin stuff that's just way too stressful, but also really not that stressful. And the last thing is insurance, playing on like, the healthcare space again. But insurance, like travel insurance, life insurance, I don't know, home and property goods insurance, that is another place because I think you don't get informed about it enough. So you honestly don't know like where and when are you getting ripped off. How am I supposed to assess your quote and know that that's a good price? Just tell me what my mum used to pay, and then I'll pay the other part. I'll pay the same amount, or like I'll use that as a like a benchmark. But anyway, I think it's funny because I think these are things that you grow to learn as you become like more adult, more of an adult, not more adult, more of an adult, but it's not the pleasant things that you like to do. It's not the fun adult stuff. It's definitely like the eh, boring and rough stuff, which I think that they could improve and make better if they would just educate us on that when we were younger. What I would say is I have a theory that they don't teach you these things in like high school or primary school. Not that you would really learn about taxes in primary school, but you don't learn about these things in high school because I or university that much. Because I genuinely believe the government is out to get us and wants us to be like less educated on this. Because from a government perspective, wouldn't you want to be able to have people like need you and like I guess need it helps open up the space for like certain businesses to educate on it or for banks to be able to make money off fees and arrears. Anyway, I just think there's something going on up there in the masses. So get ahead of it and educate yourself on these things. There's so many resources out there on the internet nowadays on like there's like so many courses. YouTube is full of knowledge. Um, just generally Google. I know Chat GPT it. Do whatever suits you. But these are things that I feel like you should really try and get ahead of, especially if you're transitioning into adulthood or you have kids. Help them get savvy on this stuff ASAP. Pronto al dente. Um, okay. Thanks guys for listening. I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.